Next to diagonal lines that may help you establish a trend, we can draw horizontal lines to determine supply or demand zones. And this is arguably one of the most effective ways of making sense of where price may go. At certain points in time, price may reach a high point after which people will start to sell, indicating that price may reach a top. And when price reaches a top, and this could be on a low or a high time frame, but remember high time frame is more reliable for this, we generally speak of price reaching resistance, or also called supply zones, meaning that price struggles to continue further. The opposite happens when price has been declining but fails to continue further down. In this case, price has reached what we call support or demand zones. So the essence of this lesson is that horizontal lines can help you determine areas of support and areas of resistance. And an effective way of using this to your benefit is to open or close a position based on an area of support or resistance. So that's might be quite new to you, but this is one of the most important lessons, I think. It's been very, very profitable for me, and I know a lot of traders that use this to their advantage. So it's really important that you get a good sense of what this is. But without further ado, let's just look at some charts again. We got Google here in front of us, and what we basically are looking for is these areas where price starts to stagnate. And this could be, for example, that people just think, okay, right now Google is overvalued. What we can do then, and I would like to start here, there are countless of examples of this, but to draw a horizontal line, by the way, you can go to your tools on the left and just beneath trend line, go to horizontal line. Go to your chart and try to find places where price has stagnated. One could be here already. This, and you can already see by my crosshair that price hinted on that level several times, but the example that I want to give here is this point in time. So let's draw a horizontal line here, and like the same goes for trend lines, by the way, diagonal. The more touches, the more established it is. So just one simple horizontal line, and you can start to already see what is happening here. There is a stagnation in price, and the first time it comes here, you can also see that on quite high volume, sellers start to appear. And price tries to go to the same level again, but actually the same thing happens. Tries for a third time, so let's zoom in a little bit. Price tries to go through this level for the third time, but that doesn't happen because, and a clear signal here is that there is very little volume. The volume has declined compared to this area here. The first time it tried to touch this level, sellers came in quite strongly. Price tried to move up, but there was no volume to really support the movement. And here's a good example of how you can see it as energy. There's just no energy to really push through. And it goes at it one more time, and eventually on a high volume bar or node, as we sometimes call it, it breaks through this resistance level. So in this case, we have drawn our resistance on our chart. If you combine this with a trend line, that's not the purpose of this lesson, but that's a useful thing to do. You can see that you could draw it like this, but you can already see that, sellers didn't manage to put the price all the way through this trend line. So you could argue that, hey, perhaps buyers are going to make an attempt again. And that's actually what happened on high volume. Price broke through. What is important to know about support and resistance is that once resistance breaks on good volume, so on a reliable signal, it tends to become support. So what we're trying to do is make sense of our chart, and if price breaks through, okay, well then we want to be buying. But where do we buy? Well, the previous resistance is one of those levels, along with trend lines in the other example, where you could say, okay, well from there I want to get in, and you generally see buyers and sellers in the opposite direction do this. And actually what you saw happening is that this resistance level acted as support here because price went down to the same level, but buyers again on pretty high volume managed to keep the price above this level. So this is a good way of determining an entry based on a horizontal level. And you see just with one simple line, that this could work to your benefit. Let's do this again. Okay, so price continued higher. If we want, we can draw a trend line, and we can see that price behaves in a very nice way until here, where a point where it starts to struggle. That's not important for now. What is important is that by judging by this advance, this pretty strong price rally, so we are on a weekly time frame. So a couple of weeks, actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks in a row, price continued higher quite drastically. And then there is this big candle on pretty high volume that signals, hey, sellers are present again. It may be time that we reverse. One important thing to also consider here is that we are at a price level of $1,000, which could also act as a psychological barrier. 1,000 is a high number, and that's just the way our psychology works. You see this a lot with round numbers, that round numbers can be a place to take profits. And that's actually what happened here. So what do? We go to our horizontal line, and we try to get multiple touches, and we draw our line here. Okay, so we are making sense of our chart already a little bit. What you see happening is price went all the way back to the trend line, and again on relatively decent volume pushed higher. It broke the resistance level, and actually once again quite fast already, and here again and again it reached this horizontal price level of just under $1,000. Now let's go forward in time of how significant this level is. This level has been respected even all the way through. So this is in 2018, and then all the way in 2020, this level hasn't really been broken yet. There were a couple of attempts, but generally this has been a very good price floor. So whether you are investing or trading, it doesn't really matter. This can be a point of reference for you to say, okay, now would be a good time to buy Google stock, as opposed to just paying $1,100 for it. There's profit in that. So in this way, I hope, if next to fundamental analysis on Google, of course, it's fundamentally a very strong company. There are lots of signals that can make you decide, hey, I want to have Google shares. But now you can see that technical analysis can give you points of reference that help you make better decisions and ultimately realizing more profits. So this is a chart that is very clean, but you can see this on all sorts of time frames. Also on the 5-minute time frames, on the short time frames, the horizontal levels can be respected pretty well. One thing that I would like to show is Tesla. So of course Tesla has been very popular, but has been struggling with a level. So let's just draw it from the first time. A horizontal line, let's draw it from here. From the first time that price advanced very strongly until on very high volume, sellers said, okay, until here, no further. Price again on lower volume, as you can see here, tried this level again, but failed to break through, and again, failed to break through. And if that generally keeps happening, then you could see a stronger sell-off. That just means that people are not willing to pay more than $77 in this case for this Tesla stock. So you can see price start to drop. And now we speak of actually resistance, but let me just also draw this significant level here. The opposite happens, of course, with support. And here, I think you can see some magic happening, or at least that's how I look at it. If you consider this level as support, because this is where price reached a low point, but then continued further, then this is a point of reference for you. And actually what happened was that price failed to break through this horizontal level, and sellers took control. Price ended up in a downtrend, but not further than the previously established support level. And this is where buyers started to show interest again, and then ultimately pushed price through. And I think this was more on fundamentals, because Tesla started to become really, really popular here, and price broke through. What is your, if price advances so strongly and there is a sell-off, so in this chart, not visible right now, but will be in a second, is the Corona sell-off. Well, what could be a place to post or place your orders to buy Tesla again? So you took some profit and you want to get back in. What is a good level? Well, previous resistance can act as support. And you can see it happening just beautifully here. this would have been a very, very good level to place your orders. Many people did, and actually price pushed away quite quickly, and it hasn't reached that level again. So again, find this out for yourself. Spend at least a couple of hours on this, drawing your lines, and see if this is something that works for you. But also not just look historically, but try to, maybe through paper trading or something, try to see if this works first on lower time frames. You just have a lot more opportunity to draw these lines, and then work your way up to perhaps higher time frames, and see the reliability of those patterns. Is that we can draw a single line, but it is important where you draw your line. So the question always comes up is, okay, do I draw my line to the wicks of the candles, or do I draw them to the opening or closing of the candles? And of course, the position of the line changes. As you can see, if we take this point on the wicks, the line is higher than if we change it down to the bodies. You need to see what works for you, but I think generally on a higher time frame, I like to use the bodies of the candles, and when I'm really trading on lower time frames, I can be okay with wicks. I choose bodies in higher time frames simply because a wick could have been created in a split second. Like a price could have spent a very limited amount of time in that area. And in that way is, I think, a little bit less significant. On lower time frames, I use wicks, but also sometimes I use the combination of bodies and wicks. And this could result in a single line, but perhaps a more effective way of using this is by not drawing a single line, but going to our drawing tools. So if you go to the brush, you can choose rectangle, and you could start, and you can, on the left there's also a magnet which ties your cursor either to the body of the candle or the wick. As you can see, it sticks. That's quite nice. So what you could do is you with this point, the very first price point, you can start at the body of the candle, and you can draw a box. So you just keep on drawing it. Let's zoom in a little bit. And what you do is you attach the top of the box, you attach it to the wick of the candle. So right now you would have a wick, a box like this, and you can just keep it at the same height as that wick, and you just keep drawing it all the way into the future. So yeah, to be specific, and now you can see already more of a zone. So a little bit more, it's a little bit wider. Whoops, that's not very convenient. It's a little bit wider, and this signals a little bit more of an area of interest as opposed to just one price line. So one price line can get you into all sorts of trouble, and it can also be the case that you base your stop loss on that single price line, but that price line may be broken just temporarily. But the overall area may have been a good point to, in this case, sell your Google stock. So that's quite an important addendum, the way that you draw your lines. Generally, drawing boxes is a little bit safer, and you just have a good view on an area that you could sell or buy your stocks in. I think that's it for horizontals. Remember, support and resistance zones, and important is that what was once resistance often turns into support, and it gives you a reference point to place your orders. That's it for this lesson. There's a bit more to tell about support and resistance, but let's do that in Slack or perhaps a separate video in the future. Thanks for your attention, and see you in the next video.